Here is your latest Africa news. Video has surfaced online showing Chadian military personnel arresting several French soldiers operating without authorization from the North Central African country of Chad on the Sudanese border.
Sasa jitra اليوم بس قمت من أبشر ولا كيف؟
اليوم بالسنتر
وعندكم اوردر دي ميسيون.
Unconfirmed reports say the French soldiers were there supporting Sudanese rebels, known as the Rapid Response Force, or RSF, who have had skirmishes with the Chadian army at the Chad-Sudan border. But for now, it's not clear what the French forces are doing there. Sudan's warring parties began a ceasefire Sunday morning after 2 months of fighting pushed the African nation into chaos. Residents in the capital, Khartoum, reported relative calm in the first hours of the ceasefire Sunday morning, after fierce clashes were reported the previous day. The UN says it received less than 16% of the $2.57 billion required to help those in need in Sudan in 2023, which is minute compared to the massive $80 billion worth of aid Ukraine has received since its conflict with Russia. The UN said it needs another $470 million to support refugees in the Horn of Africa region. Let us know in the comments below if you found this video informative. Please show your support by liking and sharing this video for the YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive updates on our latest videos. And always remember, Africa is watching.
Poland is one of the most racist nations on the planet. The Polish people despise black people. Despise them, hate them.
Welcome to Candid Africa, truthful, unapologetic.
And when the Russians went into Kiev, there were a lot of African students studying in Ukrainian universities who had to flee. And they went to the Polish border and they wouldn't be let in. The Poles were like, "Nah, you ain't coming in here. We don't let people that look like you in Poland." Blatantly racist. So now they talk about these, they lack the proper certificates or the proper certifications, etc. I don't know. Gosh, when Joe Biden makes an unannounced visit to Poland, and of course, no American president flies alone. There's going to be a C-5 aircraft landing with armored, sedans and Secret Service guys full of guns, none of which are registered. I'll tell you why they're not registered. Because the security protocol for the President of the United States is classified top secret. That means the composition of his security detail is not to be known by anybody. So we're not going to admit what we have in this vehicle, what this guy's carrying, or anything. We don't tell the Poles any of that stuff because they don't have a need to know. We will never let them know. Now, when was the last time they strip searched the Secret Service agents of the United States of America? The answer is never. And so what we have here is a double standard. Poland is upset with South Africa for a number of reasons. One, South Africa is not going to arrest Vladimir Putin when he arrives in Pretoria for the BRICS summit, even though that the International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for his arrest based upon baseless allegations of child kidnapping and I forget what the other one is, but they've accused him of two things that are just ludicrous. But Poland and Ukraine and other nations have said he must be arrested the moment he lands in South Africa, because South Africa signed the accords that bring this up. And South Africa went, nah, we ain't going to do that. And so the Poles are angry. So this is retaliation, simple. The other thing is BRICS. South Africa is an original member of BRICS, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa Economic Forum, that's actually rapidly growing at the BRICS summit, which is taking place in South Africa, by the way. 19 nations have applied this year for membership. 19, including, by the way, Saudi Arabia, Iran, others, Egypt, Turkey, the whole world. And what it means is that South Africa is part of a movement that's gravitating away from the G7, NATO, Poland, Ukraine, and trying to live their lives free of the interference of the United States. So Poland's exacting their revenge. Now, here's the other thing I'll put out there. Poland didn't do this without instructions. You see, because the Poles aren't in the business of doing this on their own. The Poles were told by the United States, we'd like you to rough up the South African delegation. Send them a signal. And the Poles went, sure, we can do that because we're racist. We have no problem. Because we're going to enjoy doing this because these are black people and we don't like black people. And so we're really going to have a good time doing this. And they did. But to think that the Poles woke up in the morning and said, let's go irritate the government that's hosting the BRICS forum that can have an economic impact on our future. Most sane people go, that's not what we want to do, especially if we want to get BRICS to change their mind. What we'd like to do is actually treat these guys well, and maybe on the return trip, invite them in for some, borscht and vodka and, sing songs and have a good time and bond with them so that the next time we sit down and say, hey, we have concerns about X, Y, and Z, they'll say, those Poles are good guys. So yeah, we're going to sit down and listen to them. You know what's going to happen the next time somebody brings up Poland and South Africa? They're going to say those are racist people, the most racist people in Europe, second only the Ukrainians in terms of their racism. And they're also recognized as American stooges because this didn't happen without America giving a direct order, rough up the South Africans.
That has been our candid speech. The whole point of our candid speech is for us to discuss what you understood about the speech and for us to come up with our own perspectives about the speech. Yeah. So before we leave, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It's the best way, especially that like button and the notification bell. It's the best way for YouTube to know this is a good video and to recommend it to more like-minded people like you. Okay. And with that said, it's been Mike Mushi from Tunacheki. And always remember, Africa is watching.
Here is your latest Africa news. Ukrainian presidential advisor has rejected Africa's involvement in European affairs, saying African leaders only came to beg for food and support Putin. This comes as an African peace delegation of 6 African leaders, led by South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, traveled to Ukraine and Russia to broker peace between the two countries. Podolyak said in an interview that Ramaphosa and his delegation of African leaders had no business being in his country to negotiate a peace settlement between the two countries. Podolyak, who is the advisor to the chief of staff of Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, said African leaders had neither the capability nor the power to get involved in matters they knew nothing about, adding that this was beyond their understanding. Many Africans have slammed Podolyak's comments as yet another imperialistic and racial onslaught on the continent. Some even made jabs at the Ukrainian government, saying even President Zelensky himself can't make peace with Putin unless commanded by the United States government. Podolyak added, Africa and its leaders were using the failed trip to achieve their geopolitical goals in favor of Russia, which provides Africa with food supplies. He was quoted saying, "The African delegation had no goal of settling the conflict or finding a solution. Obviously, this is not their task. It is not at their level or competency. They just want to be on the misinformation agenda and resolve their own issues, like the increasing resources they receive from Russia, including food supplies." End of quote. Podolyak added, the trip was a mere fishing expedition for information on behalf of Russia. Meanwhile, South Africa's President Ramaphosa has defended his trip to the two countries in spite of the fact that there has not been a peace deal yet. Let us know in the comments below if you found this video informative. Please show your support by liking and sharing this video for the YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive updates on our latest videos. And always remember, Africa is watching. Here is your latest Africa news. Finland to cut aid to all African countries supporting Russia. Finland will not give any development aid to African governments and countries that support Russia, according to the program of Finland's new right-wing government, Foreign Trade and Development Minister Ville Tavio announced. He added that his government will not only cut development aid by millions, but also prioritize and redirect it. Ukraine will become a new recipient country, Tavio said. Tavio refused to name countries subjected to possible cuts, but mentioned Africa as a whole. We have witnessed African countries supporting Russia. Those countries will be under surveillance, said the new minister. 26 African countries voted in favor of the resolution rejecting Russia's referenda in 4 Ukrainian regions. 19 others abstained, while Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and São Tomé were absent from the assembly. Although Western countries boast of giving an estimated $30 billion in aid to Africa, through illicit financial flows, these same Western so-called givers extract more than $197 billion from Africa. According to a UN report, African countries lose $88 billion every year to illicit financial flows. Note that only 45 of 55 African countries provide data to the UN International Trade Statistics database. The truth is that every year, nearly $90 billion of African resources are lost to the West in illicit financial flows, or IFFs. Through tax evasion, US-based corporations and others throughout the global north are also complicit in this theft by avoiding and paying billions worth of taxes in the African countries they operate in. Many African intellectuals argue for zero aid from the West in return for completely eradicating illicit financial flows on the continent. As for Finland's new government, they threaten that it will cut funding gradually and take former commitments into account. By 2027, development funding is set to be reduced by around 280 million euros, the government announced. Please show your support by liking and sharing this video for the YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive updates on our latest videos. And always remember, Africa is watching.
Welcome to Tuna Cheki and a special welcome to the African History Series, a series where we look at the great men and women who paved the way for us today. In today's video, we will be looking at the life of Prince Alemayehu, the son of one of Ethiopia's great emperors and heir to the treasures of one of Africa's richest royal dynasties, who died in exile without setting foot in Ethiopia ever again. Before we continue, please take the time to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Prince Alemayehu, also known as Alemayahu, was an Ethiopian prince born on April 23, 1861, in the city of Ankoba, Ethiopia. His father was Emperor Tewodros II, a prominent ruler who sought to modernize Ethiopia during his reign. When Prince Alemayehu was just 7 years old, his father's reign faced a significant challenge. British forces invaded Ethiopia seeking the release of several European hostages held by Emperor Tewodros. You see, what happened was that in an effort to strengthen his empire, the emperor sought an alliance with the British, but his requests were ignored by Queen Victoria, who was angered by this. The emperor detained some British people who were in his kingdom and this action gave Queen Victoria the excuse she needed to further expand her territory in Africa. She immediately sent a huge military invading force to attack the kingdom. Unfortunately, the emperor's army was overwhelmed, and he was captured and chose to take his own life. History has recorded that the emperor took his own life to deprive the British of the prospect of taking a great emperor hostage. After the emperor's suicide, the British burned and looted the city of Magdala, including its churches. They looted many treasures, including the emperor's crowns, shields, swords, ornamental saddles, goblets, gold crosses, paintings, illustrated Bibles, manuscripts, as well as various other possessions of the Ethiopian royal family. Following his father's capture, Prince Alemayehu became a prisoner of war. Both he and his mother were captured and taken captive. On the way to England, his mother passed away. Prince Alemayehu found himself under the care of a British army soldier named Tristram Speedy. Speedy was appointed guardian of the prince and was in charge of his life. Tristram Speedy took Prince Alemayehu to India first, where he worked as an army officer, and later to England. When he arrived in England, he was sent to Rugby, Britain. After completing his studies in 1878, the prince spent a year at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, which is the British Army Officer Initial Training Centre. The British government educated him under the belief that he could one day become a valuable ally for their interests in Africa. Many accounts of the prince's experience at the Officer Training Centre suggest that he was unhappy to be there. In 1879, at the age of 18, Prince Alemayehu contracted pleurisy, a severe respiratory illness. Despite medical care, he succumbed to the illness on November 14, 1879. Although Prince Alemayehu's life was cut short, his legacy endured. His story became a symbol of Ethiopia's struggle for independence and the resilience of its people. The news of his death deeply saddened many Ethiopians, who saw him as a symbol of hope and a potential future leader. Unfortunately, Buckingham Palace has declined an official request to return the remains of this great prince. The Buckingham Palace spokesperson gave the excuse that removing his remains could affect others buried in the catacombs. To date, many Ethiopians desire for his remains to be sent back home and keep pushing for this to be achieved. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so and hit the notification bell. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Let us know your thoughts about this great prince in the comments below. Also, make sure to watch our other videos which celebrate our Mama Africa. We have the Mysteries of Africa series and the Amazing People of Africa series. Until the next video, stay safe and I'll see you then.
So I agree with you. I want a global taxation. This is my point.
You're saying is good, but it's not what you're saying.
I love having bold people, and I take the point.
Welcome to Candid Africa, truthful and unapologetic.
What we are saying is different. Is not what you're saying. You're saying is good, but it's not what you're saying. We are not saying that we continue to have what the taxes France is paying, the taxes Kenya is paying in the current setup. Those are national issues. We need a financial transaction tax at a global level where even countries like Kenya pay. We do not want anything for free. You will pay more eventually because you have a bigger economy. We will pay commensurate to our economy. And we want those resources controlled not by IMF and World Bank. Because IMF and World Bank, you have the final say. We don't have no say. We want another organization of equals, where you have as much say because you pay as much as we do because we also pay. That's the organization we are looking for. And that is why we are saying we need a new financial architecture where governance, where power is not on the hands of a few people. We can agree on the governance of the institution. We can agree on the sharing of power so that all of us have access to resources that go to making sure, number one, renewable energy. We invest in decarbonization. Number two, adaptation, mitigation, smart agriculture. Number three, restoring our planet, restoring our biodiversity, and making sure our carbon sinks work. This is what we are saying, and we would appreciate a little understanding. We want to be, we are talking the normal. If we continue talking the normal, Emmanuel, we will never solve this problem. Things are not going forward, they're going backwards. Tokenism, installment will not solve this problem. We have a much bigger problem than the installment we are discussing here will solve. You're not hearing us.
I will, if I may, yeah. I will answer you in 2 words to conclude. No, but
and let me just finish one more. When Ajay was saying 1 to 5 or 1 to 1, who is 1 and who is 5? Private sector versus who is 1 and who is 5?
$5 private sector mobilization for every dollar of money that comes in.
5 from private.
Surely, Ajay. How do you persuade the private sector to bring their money for public good? Private sector is driven by profit, my friend. I mean, unless you persuade me otherwise.
There we have it. Let us know if you liked or hated what you heard in the comments below. In this show, we do not give you opinions. We want us to discuss below. That's the whole point of listening to a candid speech, not us imposing our opinions on you, but all of us discussing opinions. If you liked it or didn't like it, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It's the best way to show YouTube this is a good video, and it will share it to more like-minded people like you. So this has been Mekimushi from Tunacheki, and that has been your Candid Africa, truthful and unapologetic.
Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals.
Welcome to the African Leadership Series, where we bring you great inspirational speeches of African leaders.
And the other important thing for this to happen, it will help us not to participate as unequal cousins in these institutions. It will help us to participate fully, and so that we don't have a sense that we are beggars, that we are being dealt with out of generosity. I think it's important in the new era that the world is in now that there should be a good measure of equality among sovereign nations. You know, recently, 7 African countries decided to go and put a call for peace to Ukraine and to Russia. And we raised a number of issues. Zambia was represented, Comoros was represented, Republic of Congo was represented, Senegal was represented, Uganda, as well as South Africa. So we were all represented, and Egypt as well. So we were all at one, that even as we were going to address an issue of the war which has had a negative impact on the African continent, which is the rise in prices for food, rise in prices for fertilizers, we were clear that we are not going there as beggars. We are not going to ask for a favor to both Ukraine and Russia. We were going there to say, open up the Black Sea Channel so that the grains and the fertilizers should go into the world market. So we were not on a begging mission, even as we are in great need as a continent and all that. That should go to demonstrate that Africa should never be seen as a continent that needs generosity. We want to be treated as equals. Even in the multilateral institutions, we want to be treated as equals. And if our equity is at a low ebb, there must be ways in which that can be addressed. To us, this is very important. Our sovereignty is one of the things that we hold on dearly to. And we demonstrated that very clearly to both President Zelensky and to President Putin when it came to this issue. Even as there were suggestions that, yes, we can donate this, we can donate that, we said, we want you to release these grains and fertilizers to the world market so that the world can trade in these commodities and other issues we can handle in a different way. I wanted to make that point so that it should be understood where Africa has evolved up to. We want to be key players on the world stage, want to be key players even in the financial markets and in the MDBs. Now, these are the positive things. I do, Mr. President Macron, want us to address another issue, which to us is a bit of a negative. You will have heard President Sisi talking about the 100 billion that was promised in Paris. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday as well also spoke about it at the dinner. Now, there is that issue that a number of the commitments that have been made have not really been fully lived up to. But before I get into details, let me immediately say that we recognize the many initiatives that have been put on the table, and a number of countries here have done so. Germany has gone out of the way to put a number of initiatives, and the US has also done a number of things. But there have been times when we felt like we were beggars. I played a key role as chair of the African Union during the COVID period. We felt like we were beggars when it came to vaccine availability, when we felt we needed access to vaccines, and the Northern Hemisphere countries had bought all the vaccines in the world, and they were hogging them. And they didn't want to release them at the time when we needed them most. And we felt like we were begging. And at times it felt like they would just be droppings from the table, that yes, we will give you that and that. And let me tell you something that generated a lot of resentment. We resented that, and it got worse when we said we want to manufacture our own vaccines. And when we went to the WTO, there was a lot of resistance, enormous resistance. And we kept saying, what is more important, life or profits by your big pharmaceutical companies? And that too, I must tell you now, generated and deepened that disappointment and resentment on our part, because we felt like life in the Northern Hemisphere is much more important than life in the global South. And these are issues that need to be addressed. And I'm glad that we are all seated here like this, because we've got to get to the heart of these matters and address them. Now, I come to promises that have been made. And Chancellor Scholz was saying, we've got to walk the talk. Yes, we want to see the talk being walked. President Sassou Nguesso yesterday said at the dinner, $100 billion was promised per year. And he was saying, I've never seen that. And many of us will testify that that $100 billion has never really been made available. And this should stand out as something that needs to be addressed. Because sometimes we sit at conferences like this and say, yes, we'll make this available, and we believe you. We believe you, but now the tire must hit the tar. We must now see action flowing from that. Now, I want to then talk about something very practical. President Sassou Nguesso raised it yesterday. He said he would be happy if flowing from this summit, we do something very practical on the infrastructure side. Having said that 600 million people in Africa do not have electricity, and yet we've got all the resources to generate electricity, particularly the mighty Congo River, and that there have been plans to build a number of power stations that will generate, in my calculation, up to 70,000 megawatts. And he said, and I want to speak in support of this proposal, that to prove that these summits are not summits where we just talk, flowing from the Paris COP as well as others, let us now put money on the table and collectively say we are going to address this mega project. A mega project which will in the end generate electricity for up to 12, 15 African countries all at one go.
There we have it. Let us know if you liked or hated what you heard in the comments below. In this show, we do not give you our opinions. We want us to discuss below. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. It's the best way to show YouTube this is a good video, and you can share it to more like-minded people like you. So this has been Mekimushi from Tunacheki, and that has been your Candid Africa, truthful and unapologetic.
Here is your latest Africa news. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the joint press briefing of the African heads of state and government following peace talks in Kiev, Ukraine. Here is what he had to say about the current conflict.
Thank you very much. Would like to start off by thanking President Zelensky for allowing the 7 African countries to participate in this peace mission. This is indeed a historic mission. What has also brought us here is that Africa is also feeling the negative impact of this war. Our grain prices have gone up and there's a shortage. Fertilizer prices have also shot up. So even as we are thousands of kilometers away as African countries, we are feeling the impact of this war. And we say that when it comes to things like grain and fertilizers, there should be an opening up of the logistics so that grain and fertilizers must get to the market. Is that during the course of our discussions, President Zelensky said, yes, we should engage further, and we as African countries are prepared to participate in further engagement. We never thought that our engagement today, and say tomorrow as well in Russia, will lead to the results that will end this, but we want to engage so that a peaceful solution is found. So we welcome President Zelensky's openness that there should be further engagements. And as African leaders, we stand ready and willing to have further engagements. Thank you very much.
Poland continues to sabotage African peace mission to Ukraine and Russia by preventing African journalists from attending and reporting on the peace mission. It's been confirmed that Poland has now stopped the South African delegation on their peacekeeping mission by blocking their flight to Russia leaving the African delegation no choice but to return to Africa. Ramaphosa and his African peace delegation have safely arrived in St. Petersburg and currently meeting with Russia's President Vladimir Putin. Let us know in the comments below if you found this video informative. Please show your support by liking and sharing this video for the YouTube algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to receive updates on our latest videos. And always remember, Africa is watching.
So with that said, thank you for everybody who tuned in. We appreciate you guys. As always, please share this video after it's finished.
I don't know the criteria,
and family, please like this
but
video.
let me join.
It really helps us with.
Thank you very much, and let me appreciate my brother Macron for
putting it to more people, spreading our message. Okay, so we really appreciate you guys, and as always, it's been me, Mike Mushi from Tunacheki, and Africa is watching. Bye, guys.